Hi, everybody. Scott Slaughter here with Viral Marketing, and welcome back to another edition of the Harrelson Hangout with Greg Harrelson. And today we have guest Kevin Mills, and Greg's going to take us through another great hour of truly coaching and showing you the way and the path on how to be very, very successful in your business. So, Greg, thank you again for being here, and Kevin, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. And so we'll go ahead and get started. As usually I just, probably my coaching calls with my agents are usually anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. So, I want to jump right in this. This is Kevin Mills, and Kevin, I guess you've been in the business with me for this is your fifth month. Is that right? So you've just finished 4 complete months.
Right.
Full months. Okay. And tell everybody, maybe I guess I've already told them, how long you've been in the business, but you didn't have a license when you started with me. Is that correct?
That's correct. Didn't have a license. Went to the school, got my schooling done. Came and shadowed for probably 3 weeks while I was in between classes. Then once I got my license, came and started working full time. After shadowing just all the agents and listening to them on the phones, listening to their scripts, just learning like the schedule, the 8 to 11.
Okay.
And
Good.
started right after I got my license.
Good. So a couple things I want to set up the call so some people, really understand, maybe your mentality coming into the business. So Kevin, he stopped working at a previous job and went cold turkey into this business. He also has one child, and so I bring this up because when you're how old are you, Kevin?
20, almost 24, 23 and a half.
Yeah, almost 24. So, so here he is, 23-year-old. He has a child, married with a child, and he just went cold turkey, quit his last profession, and says, "I'm going into real estate." And it's very important because those of you, when we start talking about the numbers that he's doing, you got to understand he doesn't have a choice. He is building a career for him and his family, and he's got something to lose if he's not successful. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there because this is the type of mentality that I'm working with right now, and that's critical. And I think a lot of people can do some amazing things and do much more than they're doing right now when it comes to how many listens that they're getting if they had the "I don't have any option" type of mentality. So you're right now, I know that you're approaching right that 50 listing mark. And how many pendings do you have right now?
Last week was a big week. I had 4 closings last week, so it kind of shot my pendings down. So I'm pendings right now.
How many pendings?
3 right now.
Okay, good.
I have 10 sold as of today,
Yeah.
and 3 pendings.
Yes, okay, got it. So here we go with 10 closed and 3 pendings, again, in 4 months. And how many of those have been buyer sales?
1, only because it was a friend of mine.
Okay, so he had 1 buyer sale. So we're going to be focusing on listings. I mean, that's really what I want to talk with you about, Kevin. So let's just go ahead and start getting into, what I have in mind to coach you on. So one thing that I've never discussed with you, and I want to share this with you today, there's a process to mastering the art of selling real estate, and we call it the phases of mastery or phases of real estate mastery. And I know exactly where you are right now, but I want to share with you where you've been. When you first started with us, what you did is we formulated a plan. Now, formulation phase, all that means is that you actually said, "Hey, what do I need to do?" We shared with you exactly what you need to do. In other words, we drew a roadmap. It's like, this is where I want to go. This is how you get there. So we drew a map. It's called formulating a plan. That phase, obviously, we didn't stay there long because that's just 1 or 2 conversations. Well, then what you did for the first 90 days, Kevin, is you started concentrating. Is you really focused every single day prospecting. So how much prospecting in your first 90 days? How much prospecting were you doing?
5 days a week, 8 to 11, and then usually 4 nights a week, from 5 to 7, and
Mm-hmm.
always Sunday usually from like 3 to 8.
Okay, so again, remember, you don't have an option. Failure's not an option. So what you did is you came in and said, okay, I need to get this thing going fast, and then you set up a plan, and that was to prospect, obviously. But look at how many hours you prospected. So you really did 15 hours in the daytime. You added another 8 hours in the evenings, so that's 15. There's 23, and then you added, let's just say a Saturday, you put in a total of 4 hours over the weekend. So that's somewhere around 29 hours, possibly. If I could have my math wrong, but somewhere around there, 25, 29 hours of prospecting time, and you did that for the first 90 days. Okay, so good. So what we call that is concentrating. So listen, Kevin, anybody who does what you did when it comes to putting in the time will have extraordinary results. Now, I do believe your skills are really good because you also did a lot of practicing when it comes to your scripts and make sure you understand what to say. So, your skills are also pretty sharp for as early as you are in the business, but the reality is what really generated this was the fact that you made those calls and you did it so much. So that was the concentration phase. Okay. Now after the concentration phase, which is 90 days, you kicked into what I call the momentum phase, and that's what I want to talk with you about today. Where you are today is, and I would say for the last 30 days, is your in phase. You've generated momentum, and you're starting to see the benefits of all of the hard work that you did in the first 90 days. But the momentum phase, Kevin, is exactly where so many people get, but so few people get through. So after the momentum phase is a phase called stabilization, where you stabilize, and at stabilization phase is where you start setting up your business, you set up your systems, you may have a staff member to help you do things that you probably wish you didn't have to do right now. That's stabilization. And then, of course, once you stabilize, then we start all over and we reformulate and we break through and hit a new record. But what we're on is I want to focus on momentum, because for those that are listening, though you have a great story for the first 4 months, and I acknowledge you, it is a fantastic story, done very well. But I'm your coach, so I'm not your cheerleader. And so what I have to do is I have to look at, okay, what's going to happen in the next 30 days? What's going to happen in the next 60 days? And in the momentum phase, this is what I think is the danger zone, because there's two pitfalls that occur in the momentum phase. One of them is ego. Okay? Now, I'm not telling you that you're falling into any of these pitfalls. I want you to hear me describe the two pitfalls, and then you kind of share with me maybe where you feel you stand, or if it's not one of these, maybe any other challenges you're having.
Absolutely.
But the first pitfall is ego, and that is where people start to think, wow, I'm really good at getting listings, so I don't really need to go in and prospect as much, because my skills are so good that I can turn it on and turn it off at any time. That's what the ego kicks in. And then how it shows up is it shows up as an inconsistency in the time that you spend prospecting. So you may come in late, but mentally you're like, well, I don't have to come in early anymore because I'm good enough. Or, well, I don't have to make as many contacts because it doesn't take as many for me to get a listing because I'm that good. Or you skip a day, or you leave early. All of those things start to happen because the ego kicks in and we start to say, you know what, I have arrived. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this one question, and please, answer me honestly. Are you prospecting with the same? Are you prospecting the same number of hours in right now while you're in the momentum phase as you did when you were in the concentration phase?
Absolutely not.
Okay, got it. Okay, so I won't talk about whether you have an ego issue right now, but let me go ahead, because I don't know that you do.
Right.
But let me go ahead and tell you about the second pitfall. The second pitfall is overwhelm. Okay, so in the momentum phase, or let me back up. In the concentration phase, Kevin, you only had one thing to do: show up and get on the phone. I mean, you got on the phone, and then obviously after you got on the phone, you set an appointment, and that is the second thing that you had to do. Third thing you had to do, I guess you had to do a presentation. But really, your main job was just show up and prospect like you've been, coached to do. Now you've got a bit of other things that you have to do. You got to show up, you got to prospect, you got to do research on those appointments, you got to go on the presentation, you got to process, you got to put the listing paperwork, turn that into the company. There's a sign, there's a lockbox, there's pictures, there's a seller that's going to call you up and want updates. There's agents that are going to call you and say, hey, I've got an offer. And now you have to negotiate, or you have to get additional information that you didn't know somebody was going to want. Now all of a sudden, your job just went from only having 1 or 2 tasks to having 50 tasks. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, so what ends up happening is this is the point where people fall into the overwhelm pitfall, and that is their systems were not set up to be able to manage such a huge boost of activity or a boost of transactions in a short period of time. So it's not that it's bad that you're in this place. It's great that you're in this place. The key is what we want to do today is we want to make sure that you sidestep those and don't fall into any of these holes. Now, if we were to look at ego and overwhelm as the 2 pitfalls, which do you feel, or maybe you could name a new one, but which do you feel would most fit where you are?
Overwhelm.
Overwhelm. Okay, and so describe it to us a little bit more. Like what's overwhelming you right now?
It's not really the stage. Definitely makes more sense. It's not really the feeling of being overwhelmed. It's just scheduling what I have to do to fit my day. So I mean, if an offer came in, let's say early in the morning, or something happened early in the morning, instead of me taking care of it later in the day, which I should, I have 2 appointments later in the day, so I should take care of it now. So it's really hurt my 8 to 11 don't do anything but prospecting, because now I'm saying the rest of my day is booked up. I could do it right now instead of cold calling for the next 40 minutes. I could knock this out, and then it's done for the day. So I guess more than overwhelming, it's just a case of very bad scheduling.
Okay.
I would say where I'm at.
Right. So I mean, I think So so bad scheduling, or maybe obviously scheduling is going to be one of the solutions,
Right.
for overwhelm. But I think what's also important is in order to break through to the next phase, which is the stabilization phase, you have to start setting up your systems while you're in momentum phase before you can advance to stabilization. And so let's talk about systems, because this is, again, one of the things that I've done with you, Kevin, is I've told you very little on how to build your real estate business, and I've done that on purpose because I want you to concentrate and focus on the thing that I know that really, really, really matters in building a big business, which is lead generation. So you've done good there. So now we're just now starting to talk about systems. But I also want you to think that when I use the term system, people underestimate the power of systems. Now, in the sense that they think systems are this big, robust computer program that you've got to figure out. Systems, in my mind, can be very simple. For example, I'll give you a system. A system is you get an offer at 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, you shouldn't even see that offer. Because if you were focusing just on prospecting, you wouldn't even know you had that offer. But let's just assume for a minute that you have an offer come in. So what is your first, and you tell me, I guess, if an offer comes in right now, what is the first thing that you're actually doing with that offer?
Reading it immediately clicking on it and going through it.
Okay, and why?
I'm not sure. I guess it just feels like since I'm so new, I'm just making the rookie mistake, and I'm still so eager to see the offer that I'm just real happy just to click on it and just a relief.
Yeah,
price.
yeah, it's exciting, right? It's
Right.
exciting to see that, and it's like, oh gosh, well, I wonder how good this is. Is this my
Right.
next check? I mean,
Right.
man, let me text my wife and tell her I just got another offer because your wife is, she's got the child, maybe the child's at home, and she's like praying that that this works out. You made a big move as a career move, and let's not underestimate that what you did was you put your family at risk. Now you had a lot of confidence that you
Right.
were going to make this work. But let's not underestimate that you do have a wife and a child at home that's probably your number one fans. And I know it would also probably feel good to text her and say, "Hey, I got another offer. I think this one's going to work out." And then so now you read it, you got excited, you fed your ego by reading it, is what you really did, which is okay. Then
Right.
what's the next step that you take?
Probably call the seller
Mm-hmm.
immediately. Call my client and let them know, hey, I've received an offer. Or call the agent who sent it and ask
Mm-hmm.
them questions if I have questions with it.
Got it.
So probably one of those two steps.
Got it. Got it.
Whichever one I didn't do, I'd probably do the other one right after I did the first
Yeah,
one.
so the third step would be the one of those two. So I got it. So here's just a thought. Okay. So first of all, an offer comes in. Now you can set the system up however you want to, but we're just going to walk through kind of a basic system. So if an offer came in today, or for me, for example, I would not see it. Okay, we know that. I would
Right.
have my assistant actually be in the first line. She would be the one to see it. Okay, now that right there is a system. Okay, now there's more to the system, but see, I understand that even me with experience and top agents around the country, if they see it, the temptation is so high to look at it and open it up and read it all, and you just don't understand how much time that actually takes away. And if you start getting 5 or 6 offers in a week, you can imagine when you add up all that time, it's very significant. So the first thing that you want to think about is, how can I get an offer and not see it? Now, of course, you're going to eventually look at it. The second thing is, okay, somebody has to see it. So let's just say an assistant was to take a look at it. Then the question is, what would they do with that offer? So step one would be have somebody else getting the offer and reviewing it. Step two would be, when they review it, you create a worksheet that breaks down the offer, the price, the closing date, the contingencies, any out of the ordinary stipulations that they wrote into the contract, and you create a worksheet that's attached to the offer, right? Create a worksheet where somebody else reads through it thoroughly and breaks it all down on a worksheet. So not that you're not going to read the offer, but basically taking all of the bullet points. They're putting 20% down, they're pre-approved, or they're not pre-approved, or it's cash. All of these things that take you time to look through all these offers, you want to have a worksheet for that. Even if you're the one looking at the offers, you want to have a worksheet already printed out, and you just write all those details in there. So after you do read the offer to make sure that you've seen and combed through everything, then you're really going to be negotiating off of your worksheet. So you're not flipping through all these long documents and reading all this legal language over and over and over again, which takes a lot of time. So number one, somebody else would read this, somebody else would receive it. Number two, somebody else would read it, and then that person who read it would break it down and put all the significant things onto a separate worksheet, including, by the way, 3 net sheets. They would actually look at it and say, at the price, it's a $200,000 listing, the offer comes in at $180,000, they would actually already pre-do a net sheet as if your seller took $180,000. They would also then create as if the buyer paid full price. And then they would create a third net sheet as if the seller and buyer met halfway and negotiated in the middle. Now think about this, because I want to share with you what this needs to look like in order to hit stabilization phase at your level. Okay, at your level. If you were right now at 5 listings in 4 months and 1 sale, then how I would coach you to handle stabilization phase would be completely different than the way I'm coaching you now.
Right.
Because we need to set up some significant systems to handle this volume, not just you need a schedule. We need some significant systems. Okay, so Somebody else has looked at it, somebody else has read it, somebody's broken it down into a worksheet, and now they've created 3 net sheets. So just imagine yourself having somebody to do all that for you, how much time that's going to save you. Just the net sheets alone, I bet you're not even figuring out 3 net sheets before you call your seller and start negotiating. I bet you're not doing that now, are you?
No, I'm doing 1 net sheet. I mean, I'm doing the price that that's offered. I'm doing
Understood.
1.
Understood. And when you go to a listing, how many prices do you present?
3.
Do you see a correlation here?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've taught you to present 3 prices when taking a listing. You know, Scott, what's interesting, did you see his face?
Yeah.
Like right when I asked the question, he actually figured out the coaching. And that's one strong characteristic about Kevin is I only have to tell him once, and he gets it. So that is it's a skill and it's a strength that he has. So I just like that. I got a kick out of that face. I see that every once in a while.
Let me jump in real quick. For all the viewers that are on right now, thank you for joining us. And I just want to let you know, in the right corner, there's a little square box. If you click that, it's going to open up the Q&A. And feel free to ask a question, and we'll get to it when we can, or whether it's relevant at the time. Okay.
Good, thanks. Okay, so Kevin, so now you can see where you're going to the offer with 3 prices. It's going to save you a lot of time and keep you very organized in the negotiation. Okay, now one of those 3 prices, of course, may not be where you end up negotiating the deal, but to have all that information on a spreadsheet or on a worksheet prior to going to to making the call for the negotiation is going to really save you a lot of time, and it's going to keep your conversations very organized and to the point, which of course is also going to save the time, and it's going to answer questions that your sellers are going to have, because a lot of times they have the what if. So when I'm presenting, I'm going to present all 3 prices. I'm going to say, hey, look, if you accept it as is, this is what you would net. If you held out for full price, this is what you net. But if you did negotiate somewhere in the middle, I've already figured it out, and this is what you're netting. Now, we know that the probability is going to be they're going to choose the one in the middle. So, you know, once you have those 3 net sheets sitting there like that, it gives you the ability to present to your seller very similar in the manner that you presented them to get the listing. Now there's consistency in the way that you're presenting yourself. Well, when you present 3 prices, what price do they usually choose when you go to list it?
The middle one.
And so now what's going to happen when you present 3 again, it's very likely that they're going to choose the middle one. That's probably a pattern with that particular client.
Right.
So all of these, so every bit of this is really important. See, this is a system, okay? So you got to imagine at this point, and offers come in and all the net sheets are already filled out, okay? You haven't even seen the offer yet if you follow this system. So the next step is this. The next step is that person who filled it out calls your seller and says this: hello, this is so-and-so. I work with Kevin. We believe we're going to be getting an offer in any minute now. And Kevin, and I want to make sure that you and Kevin have a chance to talk. Is there a time somewhere between 12 and 1 where Kevin can reach you? And they say yes. Okay, well, what's the best number? Well, have him call my cell number, because I'm going to be in transition from one place to another, and when he calls me, I'll pull over and I'll talk to him. So let me ask you this. Now that you've gotten offers, how many times have you called your seller, file in hand, ready, and you've gotten their voicemail?
Probably 30 to 40% of the time.
Yes. So then they call you back, and you're on the phone, and then you get their voicemail, and then you call them back, and they're on the phone, you get their voicemail. All of a sudden, you're logging time, you're logging minutes that you could be doing other things, playing phone. And let's say when you start doing 100 transactions, you cannot underestimate how much of a savings of time this will create for you. And this is why we got to get it under wraps now, because if you start to think about, this is just one system, by the way, that's not in a computer. This is just setting it up with a staff member. Maybe you need to get a part-time assistant, and that's probably what we're going to be talking about a lot over the next 30 days. But you have them doing this activity, and if you just look at how much time you just saved just from this one thing, prospecting and doing just as much prospecting as you did in your first 90 days will not nearly be as difficult. So let me kind of give you an opportunity to ask some questions regarding this, because I know a lot of people would love for me to give these miracle answers on how to become top producers, but I can tell you right now, the miracle is if you just keep things simple. And extraordinary is being simple today. Extraordinary is not how many services can you get to integrate together so you can have this robust system and all these things are working. That's not extraordinary. Extraordinary is keeping it simple. And that's what I want you to do, is keep things simple so we can crush any of the goals that you want to have. So what questions or whatnot from the little system that I just shared?
No questions, I guess. Just processing it, it's great. I know we've talked about it before, and I do believe a part-time assistant will correct that. But it's more, I guess, starting with my mindset. I have to have a focused mindset every morning, saying nothing's going to distract me between the hours of 8 and 11 this morning. Between 8 and 11, I'm not going to do anything that's going to distract me in that time period. So I guess it all starts with the way I'm thinking.
Yes, okay, so and let me just really pick on the way that you just communicated that to me, because what you just said was I'm not going to let anything distract me. I want to shift the mindset to this. You are the distraction. So I see people all the time who invite distractions, and then they want to blame everyone else for distracting them. In other words, if you have broken your ritual, and if you've gotten away and strayed away from your focused 3 hours of generating every morning, then other people, let's just say a friend of yours, hypothetically, you may have said to your friend on month 2, hey, don't ever call me between 8 and 11 because I am really focusing. But then on month 4, you called your friend at the same time that you told your friends never to call you, and then all of a sudden you just trained your friend that it's okay to be in communication with you. And now times this by 1,000, because I just said friend, but and this could be your wife, and you probably told her, hey, this is what I do, but then you broke the rule, and then all of a sudden what we're doing is we're training everyone else that there's a new set of rules, and the new set of rules is there are no rules. So just understand that what you want to do is you want to understand that there's only one way that you can be distracted, and that is if you allow and invite others in to distract you. That's how I want you to think mentally, because I want to shift from pushing responsibility onto others, and where you actually accept the responsibility for yourself. I mean, this morning, what were you doing this morning around 10 o'clock today when I walked up to you?
Talking to one of our buyer's agents about a pending deal we have.
Yeah, so you and a buyer's agent are talking about a deal that you're negotiating is about ready to go to pending, and I'm thinking, why? Now he's not prospecting, you're not prospecting, and you're talking about something that actually doesn't need to be talked about at 10 o'clock. That deal's going to go through no matter what you do at 10 o'clock. Unfortunately, the potential listing that you could have got that maybe you missed, well, you'll never know that. You'll never get that back, that opportunity back. So what are some of your other challenges when it comes to where you're getting overwhelmed?
I'm thinking. Maybe just like the volume of calls I get on a daily basis. Sometimes I get 30, 40 calls. I mean, they're from sellers, they're from other agents asking me, hey, does this community allow motorcyclists for owners? And it's just on a spur of a whim, I'm driving down the road and I have no idea. So I mean, a lot of just follow up to other agents and to my sellers. But I schedule times to talk to all of them. But
yeah. So another system that you can put in place is going to be, hey, for you, maybe you take 5 minutes or maybe every hour you check your voicemail, or every hour and a half, whatever duration you want to do it. It's got to, don't make it less than an hour, but go
Right.
ahead and set a system where you're going to only check your voicemail once every hour. And believe me, if you did it once every hour, that'd be extraordinary, because very few people can check their voicemail that quickly. But for
Right.
somebody like you who's anxious and you're excited about all these people I mean, part of you wants to take the call because you just want to see what's the next opportunity on
A
the other end of
huge
the
part.
phone. Yeah, and again, you have to, and this becomes, and I say this with all respect, this comes with business maturity. Over time, you'll kind of get used to this, and you'll say, okay, I'm going to kind of mature past the excitement phase, and I'm going to get to a point where, hey, this is just normal, and so you're going to really move into an efficient phase. So
Right.
the goal is be excited, but you have to be efficient with it, because if you're not, then the consumer at the other end is going to suffer, and so will your business. It'll be hard to break through into stabilization phase unless you do this. So now go to a point where you check your voicemail at the same time every day, and then decide what's going to be the duration of time that you're going to let go by without checking it. And then from that standpoint, when you have your phone next to you at your prospecting station, turn it over, turn it off. It's simple as that. You won't believe at how much money, everyone who's watching this hangout right here, you won't believe how much money we could all make if we actually would shut our phone down for 1 hour and focus on generating. And I say that, it's a shame that we have to say that, but there's probably nobody or very few people that really shut their phone down for 1 hour. And what I'm seeing right now in the real estate industry, because 22 years ago when I started, we didn't have this issue. But now, just think about it when you get the Google Watch or the Apple Watch or whatever that is. Think about that. You'll never shut down, because every time you look at your time, you'll see a message.
Right.
And so we're so connected to the technology that it's making us inefficient when it comes to generating listings. Okay, so on the return of the calls, my suggestion to you is, of course, is schedule when you're going to return calls. Schedule when you're going to check messages. That's very, very important. Matthew Ferry once said to me years ago, from a scheduling standpoint, if it's not in the schedule, it doesn't exist. So if you're doing things that are not in the schedule, then you don't exist. But so, if you're going to really, really be efficient, then everything that needs to be done has to be in your schedule. And then if it's not in the schedule, it's because it doesn't have to get done. So schedule everything.
Right.
And at 23, getting ready to be 24 years old, doing this much business, having this as catching momentum so quickly, this is going to be, in my opinion, the one thing that really holds you back. And believe me, there's people on, that are hearing what you're doing that don't believe that this is even really truthful. Well, it is what it is. Check the MLS if you're in my local market. I'm not really worried about that. But what's really unfortunate is, though there are people that are rooting for you, there are also people that want to be a witness to your breakdown, because it's entertaining. It's like watching an accident. Oh, I knew he couldn't really sustain that. I knew it wasn't real. I knew that. Listen, it's just like that. It's not that they're bad. It's just the society that we live in. There's so many people that I want to hear on the other end of the story that, you couldn't sustain it. And the real reason why there are people out there, and there are going to be people in your own life, and I want to warn you of this. The reason is because if you make it, and you make it the old school way, like you're being coached, which is with no gimmicks, then you're going to prove everyone else that thinks you can't do it, you're going to prove them wrong. And when you prove them wrong, they're going to have a choice. They're going to have a choice to either do what you do and get what you get, or be a victim. So you're really setting the stage here to inspire a lot of people. You're giving a lot of hope and a lot of chance to a lot of people. But in the end, the people that are halfway doing what you're doing, meaning they're putting half the effort in but making excuses as to why they can't fully commit, you're really challenging them. And that's our goal, is let's challenge everyone. Let's challenge all the naysayers. Let's show them what you can really do. It's great for you and your family. Okay, but the bigger purpose of this is let's inspire other people to be able to do the same. So before we open it up for questions, I really am just, where are you with this coaching conversation, Kevin? What else can I do to help you right now?
I think that's a lot of it. More of it's now me knowing that I'm the distraction and everything that's distracting me, and getting back to how I started this. Even though it was just recently ago, if I get back to prospecting every day, 8 to 11, I'm still doing my evening prospecting just about every night. But it's all about just getting my prospecting down and keeping my follow-up where it's at, and just letting the stuff that can wait.
Yes. Yeah, and you're going to connect the dots, by the way, that when you value your time and when you commit to your schedule, it's actually really going to help your clients. So, I know that that cell phone number comes in, and all of a sudden you just want to take that call right that second. I guess in your mind it's probably like, I want to provide such good service, I'm going to take that call. But the challenge is half the time that you take that call, you don't even know the answer to what they're actually calling about. If you were controlling your schedule and checking your voicemails, when they call, they say, hey, I want to check on the status of something. Then when you call back, you actually are ready to go. You're prepared. You have all the information. In some senses, the service that you're providing will go up. Just because, by the way, when you're just reacting to a phone ringing, you're not going to sound as professional. You're not going to sound as prepared because you're in a reactive mode. Versus when you call them and deliver them the information that they're looking for, they're going to experience that you have more knowledge, more confidence, and you understand. There's so many different things that they're going to get from that. And so, it's kind of the opposite. Now, if you don't answer the phone call right when they call, I'm not saying don't talk to them until the next day. No. I'm saying talk to them when your schedule has it built in. Right. Talk to them when you're supposed to. So I also want to remove, because in a previous conversation you said, look, I want to provide good service. So this is not it's all about you making money and you're not going to provide good service. This is one way to provide better service, because the quality of your conversations are going to be better, and you're not going to take the call, have to get off the phone, then call them, leave a message, they call you to leave a message. That whole game of phone tag drives people nuts.
Right.
What else? Hey, Scott, can you think of anything, or is there any questions that anybody wants to pose?
I wanted to kind of bring up, just from listening and kind of standing outside the box here a little bit, I think, over everything that you said, if you look back from the beginning at what Kevin was doing, the reason he's been so successful was that he was very proactive and in control of those hours of his prospecting time. And I think if you take that and realize that now that he's allowing the distraction in, it's because he's allowing outside forces to be reactive on him. He's being reactive to the things that are going on instead of getting back to being proactive. So by getting everything scheduled and taking control back and being proactive throughout the entire day, I think he's going to allow himself to continue through this momentum stage and get to the stabilization stage like you're talking about. So yeah. I think that's really important, what you said there. It's amazing and so true.
Yeah, that's it. So Kevin, I want you to think of this. I want you to think of, there's a big distinction between reacting and responding. It's reacting versus responding. So I want you to respond. I coach you to respond, but just kind of resist the temptation to react. And when you respond, then you're much more prepared. And so whoever you're going to be communicating, when you're in a responding mode, is going to get a lot more value out of whatever you all are going to be talking about versus if you're in a reactive mode. So just think of this: when you're getting a little bit tense and overwhelmed, ask this question. And you may want to put this question on your station and hang it up for the next couple of weeks and say, am I reacting or am I responding? Just ask yourself that question. You don't need to tell me the answer. You don't need to talk to anybody about it. But if you will just ask yourself and just see that every day, am I reacting or am I responding? Then that'll click your mindset into saying, okay, take a deep breath. Let me respond. I should not be reacting. Responding is much more efficient and effective than reacting. Make sense?
Yep.
Good. All right. Well, if there's any questions, this might be a good time. The main things that I wanted to focus on today, Kevin, is I wanted to educate you on the phases of mastery. I wanted to show you where you are. You're in the momentum phase. I want you to learn about the two pitfalls, which is ego and overwhelm. I wanted to make sure that you understand that you're really dancing around the edge of the overwhelm pitfall. And then the solution to avoiding the pitfall of overwhelm is to set up systems. So the system that I shared with you that you would have an assistant do if you when you receive an offer is the same exact system you should be setting up today, even though you don't have an assistant. It's just that if an offer comes in at 10, then at 11, this is the system and the structure. So don't just react and go call the seller. Go ahead and go through the process. Say, let me read it. Let me put it on a spreadsheet. Once I put it on a spreadsheet, let me do the 3 net sheets.
Right.
Then you make the call. And do that every time. If you were to look at every offer and every transaction that I've done in the last couple of years, by the way, you will see 2 things. You'll see a net sheet spreadsheet that has 3 net sheets at the 3 prices that I just told you, and you'll see a breakdown of all the contingencies, stipulations, and specifics of the offer. You'll see those 2 sheets in every one of my files. So even if I got a full price offer, maybe I don't do it with the net sheets, but we still go through and break down all of the specifics, so then I can be very efficient once I'm in the negotiation. Instead of carrying all the files around, I have a file, then I just put those sheets in. It's a two sheets, and I just carry the 2 sheets. I got every bit of information that I need to negotiate wherever I am, whenever I need to.
Right.
I'll show those when I'll show you. Remind me to show those to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And Greg, actually implementing, he should go into his calendar and schedule like an hour or half an hour, whatever it takes every day, to knowing that if there's an offer that comes in the morning, he's not going to get to it until 11 or 12 that day. Because again, also like you mentioned, is the sellers don't know the offers are coming in, and again, it's by you reacting, and this way it doesn't affect them whether they get a call at 9 or 11, right?
Nobody's going to be affected. I mean, the reality is most real estate agents are not working until after 9. So it's usually 10 o'clock when an offer would come in, and that's if an agent's, as a full-time agent that's really getting into the office every morning. So it's usually 10 o'clock that an offer will come in. So there's only a 1-hour delay between the offer coming in and when he's going to be available to read everything. It's only 1 hour. He's not, you're probably not getting that many offers at 8 o'clock. It's the offers that are coming in at 10. So it's not like, for those listening and are really, really responsible with returning calls, we're not talking about a long lag between when he'll get to it. No, he'll get to it probably within an hour of it coming in. So yes, I mean, the key is, and one of the things that we're going to be, our next coaching conversation between Kevin and I will actually be dissecting the schedule and start and figuring out, because the thing that's hard to schedule, Kevin, about offers is you don't know when you're going to get them. So then what I'm going to coach you on is here's a great time to put it into your schedule, but there's always a contingent activity, meaning I negotiate offers from 1 until 2 p.m. every day. But in the event that there's no offers to negotiate between 1 and 2 p.m., then there's a contingent activity there.
Okay.
So there's always, because there'll be times where you won't have the offer, but the block of time is there. So
Right.
what are we going to do with that block of time? So we're going to start stacking task on top of task, and I'll kind of go into that with you on how to create a contingency schedule. Okay.
Right.
Awesome.
Hey, yeah, Scott, that's it for me today. It's 44 minutes into it, so I usually don't want to take more than 45. So that's it for me today, and
Perfect.
I appreciate you helping us out here. Kevin, any last thing for you? Last question?
Nope, none for me. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, Greg. Well, again, thank you, and that was it for Harrelson Hangout. We'll be getting the replay queued up, and thanks, Greg, and we'll see you in a month on the next Harrelson Hangout coaching call.
Okay, I got a great one next month too. It's going to be another exciting one. So I appreciate all the work that you're doing over there at Viral.
All right, thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Okay,
All right,
take
guys.
care.
Yes.